been a year since the little town of Newtown, Connecticut saw 20 of their first graders and 6 teachers at Sandy Hook shot to death. Recent report on the shooting compiled by the state attorney painted a disturbing picture of the shooter. And while we know how the tragedy happened, no one will ever truly know why. I talked to clinical psychologist Dr. Aronoff about this disturbing generation that he calls man boys.
Man boys refers to a current generation of boys and young men who are lost. And it has evolved over time because they have not had the same sort of anchors that many generations prior to this generation have had. They seem to have very little drive, or if they are very intelligent and do well in sports, they don't seem to have any anxiety about moving forward into their future, have a tendency to want to just stay at home after high school, and they're lost in the sense they don't have a sense of direction or commitment for hard work. A couple of other characteristics would be they have a difficult time forming mature relationships. They either end up being immature and have temper tantrums, and I refer to them as barbarian type young men, or they're immature and what I refer to as wimpish. The type of man that we're trying to find in this generation, which is absent, is the man who can be presidential, who has the capacity to be mature, has discipline, has motivation, has integrity, has values, and is able to make a commitment to engaging in the process, not just getting the trophy and giving up after that.
Now, this report compiled by the state attorney talking about the Sandy Hook shooting painted different pictures of this gentleman and showing that he was obsessively into video games, or he had easy access to guns, or he had mental health issues. But you can't really look at each one of those and say, aha, that's the reason why, that's exactly why he did it. How can you understand what this happened how can you look at it and say this is exactly why he did what he did?
Well, I think you're raising a very important question. It's very pressing for all of us to want to know exactly why this young man did what he did, so that we could predict for the future such that this would not happen again. We would know what specific variables we would have to look at. But the problem is the number of variables that contributed to this young man's response to whatever was happening that day is impossible to integrate and to come up with a definitive identification for what exactly would lead to this person doing what he did. So what I tend to look at is the culture in which this young man was living in, and it does have something to do with what I call the lost generation of boys, a culture that has steered away from community and what I call the barn-raising mentality versus the I, self-serving, egocentric, me versus the rest of the world, impulsive, reactive, seeking stimulation all the time, in the absence of being able to be patient and to commit oneself to the we, or the community at large. So this young man, in many ways, as far as I'm concerned, was lost and was detached and disconnected from the larger community that I do believe is deteriorating in this country.
And you kind of mentioned that kind of goes back to previous educational or vocational skills when we used to be an agriculture thriving country, and then we moved, then you say, to the industrial age. Well, now we're past the industrial age and we're in the technological age.
That's correct, and moving very much into media. And although the statistics aren't out, but it seems to me, from what I've observed, that women seem to be more prepared to be able to make this transition from an agricultural to an industrial and trade-oriented society, then to a technological, and now to a communication and a global world that it depends on communication, whereas boys seem to be focused primarily on self-stimulating internet-type activities, and it really does attach itself to the uniqueness of the male brain versus the female brain, which is it's noteworthy from the at the very beginning of development in utero that the male brain does have a different formation and a sequence than the female brain, and it does lead to this seeking stimulation. And with that, with the absence of a community, these young men are more prone to get lost into a single or a dyadic relationship with technology or with one other person.
Which is why you'll find, in common with all of the mass shootings that have been happening, you don't see women out there enacting in this kind of behavior. It's the men, and it kind of ties in with what you're saying about this. How much hope, I guess, do you have for the future? I mean, what do you is it kind of like a lost cause, like there kind of is no hope and you just hope that you can predict or figure out these kind of behaviors, or what do you see happening in the future?
Well, I think there is hope, and as I've researched and actually implemented my own model for working with boys, and I spend a lot of time with groups of boys, working with them in an athletic environment as well as a psychosocial educational environment. And the traditional therapeutic model does not typically work with boys, because boys generally don't want to first talk about their feelings. They want to talk about goals, and they want to develop an ability to be empowered and work as a team. Boys do very well working as a team, and that may stem from the sort of genetic predisposition to be good hunters, trappers, builders, protectors, providers, and warriors. And so that sense of mentality needs to be reinstated. So one of the things I look at is I look at 6 major variables. First is health. So you need to address and define and implement a model and certain strategies for enhancing psychological and physical health. Not just talk about it, but actually lead young men through that, and with their peers and with families. The second thing is family and parenting. The third one is career, which for young men, it's going to be education and then work. And the fourth variable is going to be social relationships. And the fifth variable is going to be financial well-being, which really focuses on using your money not to buy self-stimulating activities, but using money to actually do things with other people, so you have memories that have to do with social connections. And the last variable is community, a very, very important variable, which is that I instruct and train young men to go out and give something to their community. It doesn't have to be in a far-off country or island, but it does have to be something in your own community where you are giving something to others and you're focusing on we, not me.
Very interesting to say the least. Dr. Aronoff, thank you so much.